And we back. Malcolm. I don't know where this is going. I don't know anything about anything, but it's another Jubilee video. Right. But this is called Climate Change Activists versus Skeptics. I don't know. Oh, can they see eye to eye? I don't know if this is like actual climate change, like the polar caps and shit like that.
Yeah,
or are they talking
probably...
about climate, like feminine, like shit like that. I don't know what climate they're talking about.
Let's just assume they're talking about the
polar caps.
Yeah.
So let's see. You ready?
Yep.
Start in 3, 2, 1.
In the reference of landfills, okay,
yep.
Maybe you don't have to pay for it now.
That's right.
But in 20 years when they're full, you're still going to end up paying for it. So why push that responsibility onto someone else?
But don't you think the citizens have a right to decide if they want to go along with this?
I don't think that citizens have the right to be wasteful more than someone else.
I'm about to learn some shit right
it's
here.
Like old versus new.
Yeah, kind of. But I got old.
Well, yeah, you got a couple on one side.
My name is Don. I'm a professor of geology and a professional climate scientist. I've published in the field for many years.
My name is Andrew. I studied environmental science policy and management. I'm a consultant that specializes in sustainable tourism.
My name is Natalie. I'm a local government consultant, and I believe that anthropogenic climate change is real.
My name is Michael. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit that concerns itself with the threats to Western civilization.
My name is Dr. James Enstrom. I'm a physicist and epidemiologist, and I'm passionate about scientific integrity.
My name is Keith Hardeen. I'm a constitutional rights activist, and I'm concerned about the future of the next generations.
May I please have my activists to the left and my skeptics to the right? I believe global warming should be our #1 concern.
No. I can't agree with that.
There's a lot of issues that our politicians deal with and that as a society we can care about, but if our Earth is moving in a direction to where our species cannot survive, then homelessness, then all of the other issues that are out there are going to be irrelevant because we won't have a place to live.
I agree that there are many issues that are important at the local level, and we are not doing a great job with a lot of things, but things like extreme droughts, extreme heat waves, and devastating hurricanes and tornadoes are going to make life harder on us no matter where we come from, no matter what our economic background.
Really, if you want to look at it as an issue of health, I don't see why everyone wouldn't be concerned and everyone wouldn't be participating in ways to reduce the impact of climate change or reverse global warming.
No matter what the United States does, it's not going to make an impact on the worldwide greenhouse gas emissions as long as China and other parts of the world are increasing the greenhouse emissions. It puts the United States at an economic disadvantage when we try to transform our lives and the other countries just simply ignore these efforts.
The United States seems to be the most held responsible for the global warming, for doing something about it. And that's what bothers me. You know, we have a constitution, and nobody ever considers that constitution the importance of protecting the natural rights of the individual. And I think global warming is an infringement on those rights. When I say global warming, at least the agenda of the political aspect of it.
I think it's time to change how we live. I really do, which we have seen how changing our habits, changing the resources that we use and what we pump into the air, and how we reversed that hole in the ozone. We've seen how it can change, and we can change it, but we're going to have to make changes.
Well, I don't believe that climate change is our biggest problem because I don't believe that man has anything to do with it. Climate has changed since before man existed on the planet and will continue when man is gone.
As a professional climate scientist who's done this for 50 years, I'm afraid you're not correct. The climate evidence is very, very clear. And probably the clearest evidence of all comes from ancient records where we can actually see what the planet was like before humans were involved. This is why climate scientists, 99% on almost every study of climate scientists, shows that we're as unanimous as the scientific community ever gets, and that this evidence is real, and that it's happening, and it's happening on every scale, from the ice caps to the ocean. Every place we look, we get the same answer.
No, I'm not a climate scientist, but I know a lot of them. And I've heard exactly the opposite argument made. Thousands of scientists just in the United States signed a letter saying man has little, if any, effect on climate.
They're all climate scientists. That's the point.
Yes, they
No,
are.
actually doing climate research and publishing in it.
Yes, they are.
I don't believe
Yes,
it.
they are.
It's getting heated.
Getting heated.
No. I agree with like probably 2 points. Old girl said that we don't have our Earth to live on, or whatever the case is. If shit continues, or the case is, I agree with that.
Mhm.
I also agree with the older lady that said that it's been climate change since before time, or whatever the case is. I also agree with somebody else who said that just humans are kind of speeding up the process.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with climate being the number one problem. I don't agree with that.
I would put that on number 2, maybe number 3.
Probably 3. Probably top 5. I give it top 5.
Yeah, like
But I won't
granted
give it
that
number one.
that,
No, not
that
number
is
one.
like a major issue, but like to me on my little spectrum, that's like, yeah, it's like top 5, like you said. Like, maybe number 2 or 3. It's like fighting whatever my number 2 is.
Probably fighting like 4 or 5
in the
right
world.
now for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like
It's definitely not number 1. Like, I understand, like, if continuing however the world is running right now, and we won't have our Earth to live on and all that good shit, that's cool and all. But gun violence is definitely number 1. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. That's around the world. That's period. Like, yeah, I don't know shit about like climate and shit like that, but there's certain things I agree with, certain things I don't agree with.
yeah,
but-
because like it definitely does exist. Because like if you can, the thing is like you can clearly like the climate
I didn't know we
figure it out.
closed up ozone.
Yeah,
that's
like-
new to me.
Like you can physically see the evidence, like the chart over like I want to say like because there's like a chart from like the 2000, like maybe 2000 2001 up until this year, like 2019 or whatever. There's like a physical chart of like how much the fucking sea has been rising up.
Oh yeah.
From the polar ice caps like
Yeah.
melting away and shit because of like all this climate change and shit, and like you can physically see that, and then there's other stuff too,
Like how
with,
the
like the
hurricanes
weather
and
and
stuff
like
like that.
how all these different parts
fires
of
and everything,
the world getting hit with like constant hurricanes
Yeah.
and shit, like like hurricanes are a natural like thing, but like it's unnatural for like you just got hit
be
with one
happening, like, so
yesterday, and then
frequent and
it's
everything like
it's
that.
like frequently like like they coming to visit every day and
Right.
shit.
Oh yeah. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
I know people who have been affected by environmental regulations.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
Wow, everybody agrees on this one.
I had a very good friend. He is a trucker. He was able to be successful and maintain a career for 40 years. He was stopped in that career because of claims that his diesel truck was killing people through the exhaust. There was a program in Los Angeles called the Clean Truck Program that basically put him out of work because he couldn't afford to buy a new truck. So this is the kind of environmental regulation that hurts real people, and especially here in Southern California.
I'll say also that many of the people who own homes, they're not allowed to water their lawns. Why? Because of environmental regulation laws, which are suppressing,
It's
again,
different. Our
suppressing
laws are different
the
from
natural
theirs in
right
California.
to use water.
It seems like an underlying issue with you guys is money, power, choice. And I grew up on a farm where there was a lot of regulation. Agriculture is very regulated. And then eventually there was this regulatory thing that came in called the Conservation Reserve Program, where we had to convert a part of our lands to prairie. At the time, my dad was very angry because we lost money from that. But that conservation area also created a buffer between the farm fields and the water to capture eroding soils so that it didn't go into the water and decrease the water quality. So I think there's certain regulations that we need to look at more long-term with a bigger picture, and although we may be losing money now, we could be earning it greater in the future. We need to look at it a bigger picture.
I really like your point about the water and the regulation of water, because I can remember that from a few years ago. And the reason they put that regulation in was because the snowpack wasn't there for that year. It's not like it was a random year where the government just said, start charging people for water. It's because the effect of climate change, one of the aspects of it is that we are not seeing consistent seasons. And I completely agree with a regulation that limits the amount of water, amount of precious resource that we have to consumers.
A regulation a lot of us didn't like when the cost of gas went up here in California, and we all had to have catalytic converters. But we've all agreed in this group that we're grateful the air is clean like it was when I was a kid. And we don't want those laws reversed because we'd be back to the smog we had when I was a kid. So those regulations may not have been great at the time. They may not have made people happy, but we've all learned to live with it, and now we're grateful.
I'd like to bring up my concern about China again. On some days, the pollution levels in China can be 10 to 50 times what they are here in Southern California. They simply assign their citizens to wear gas masks. And then they take the jobs, the manufacturing jobs that used to be in this area, have now gone to China.
I might be missing it, but are you saying that you would rather have that manufacturing be in California and that we all wear gas masks all the time? Because that regulation that we have here that makes it expensive to have manufacturing here is what keeps us safe. That is what makes it expensive.
I think you're misunderstanding me. You could bring manufacturing back, just like President Trump has done in various parts of the United States, by just making the economics work. So we can still keep the clean air, but we don't need to keep beating down. Now, some of the regulations now are more severe than they were 50 years ago. And what you need to do is talk to some of these businessmen that are faced with this on a day-to-day basis.
China is a country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, a country compared to city is going to be 10 times.
Yeah, 10 times bigger. What?
Like 50 or whatever the fuck you said.
A billion
right?
people more, yeah, than...
I was just wondering. I'm trying to put in my head, like, China is a country. So, of course, like, that math is going to not even the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You comparing a state to an actual country.
Yeah, okay. I was just making sure my graphs in my head, my geographics and shit was right. That's all I was doing.
What was the actual question again?
What the fuck was it called? Regulations.
Regulations.
Like climate regulations. I heard of some shit like that before, like the water alarm thing that they was talking about. Like they don't let people water their alarms. Like I heard of like something like that, like close to that whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But like dude was saying like as far as gas prices, I know all about that shit.
Yeah.
The gas prices now are just fucking horrible.
Ridiculous now. Like they getting up there.
Yeah.
As far as regulations and shit go, with like here, like I feel somewhat of what they saying, but you know, again, like what my problem is, like sometimes with these regulations, they don't go well for these companies and shit. Cause like you think of like Nestle. Nestle is like a corporation and shit, and you know, back when California had the fucking drought, like Nestle's taking all the water from like these lakes and shit, and they selling people bottled waters.
Yeah. And they claim it's filtered.
Right, but like at the same time, they hitting the residents and people with these restrictions of not being able to use these ravines and rivers or whatever in California and shit. And that's where I have a problem with like these regulations. Like if you think about it, like we probably could have been somewhere like close to the future like by now. Oh, yeah. Like if you think about it, like far as like with electricity and like electric cars and shit, you know, like the whole automotive industry, like when like electric cars were trying to, you know, be on the scene and shit. Yeah. Motherfuckers was like not trying to let that shit happen. I'm pretty sure it's like some solar powered cars or the case is. Motherfuckers just ain't trying to hear that shit because motherfuckers ain't making no money off of that. Yeah, that and these people want to continue to make money off of this. Like if you telling me you trying to sell a car that runs on battery, and like I'm selling fuel like gasoline and shit that they got to dig up.
Right.
And I'm making billions upon millions of dollars and shit.
I ain't changing up.
Yeah, I wouldn't change up shit. And like, it just like, it's just like weird with shit. Cause like, if you think about it, like, you know, people that like live off the land, so to speak, you know, there's fucking rules. Like, people can't,
yeah, like he was just saying.
yeah, people can't collect like rainwater and shit. Like,
Oh, they can't?
no, cause the water fucking company owns that shit.
How do they own rain?
Tell me, bro. I have no fucking idea. Like, it's illegal for them. It's illegal for people to like harvest.
Or filter water from the rain.
Yeah,
That's
and
weird.
also like solar panels. Like, people. That's what I'm saying. People that live off the grid, shit. Like, they got their own solar panel and water shit coming.
Yeah.
Like, you can get fines for all this shit because the companies want money from that shit. Like, you out here with a solar panel and your whole house get it like electricity with the sun and shit, and ComEd ain't trying to hit that shit. They want their piece of the pie. So that's why I'm like, I'm kind of like torn, because like them regulations don't be like sometimes going with like
It's not
the
for
corporate.
humanity.
It's not for like people. It's more so for
corporates.
the corporate people. Like like more so helping them out, and so to speak. That's how I see it. Like,
well, I'm just learning as we watch because I don't know shit about them.
that's why I'm like on the fence with like this question and shit. Like, I can see shit helping us, but then I can see like shit that ain't helping us.
You see where it's hurting.
Yeah.
So I'm just learning. I'm just taking it all in, Malcolm. Pause. Starting in 3, 2, 1.
An eco-friendly lifestyle is expensive.
Depends. Talking about shade.
We're paying twice as much for gas as the rest of the country. I pay an enormous amount for energy in my little tiny one-bedroom condo. Wind and solar have been subsidized. So, I mean, we've already paid a fortune for it all.
You know, why not put some of these regulations to a vote instead of the EPA and all the rest of these administrative arms placing these regulations on us, taking more and redistributing more of our wealth or more of our money to pay for something that we're not even going to use or benefit from.
An eco-conscious lifestyle does not need to be expensive. There are incentives that are built into our policy that encourage people to live a more eco-conscious lifestyle, because you have control over that. A lot of things we don't have control over, but you have control over how much you're buying at a grocery store and how much you're deciding to throw away. And minimize that, scale it back in all regard, in how far you're driving, in the water, in the electricity, in all the different sectors that impact climate change. So you have the decision to make of how much you're going to use, and there are direct cost savings with not being so wasteful.
I'm also an example of that. I drive an electric car, and it's not that hard in Los Angeles to get it charged. And in the future, it's going to be much easier for more and more people to have electric cars, especially as the cost of internal combustion engines keeps adding up. I spend a tremendous amount of time recycling plastic, recycling aluminum, and about every 6 months I go to the recycle yard myself, and it pays off very handsomely. Aluminum is extremely valuable. There's a lot of small choices and a lot of larger choices, and you can make those choices quite easily. I mean, our entire yard is now all drought-resistant plants.
That is your choice. But what you are talking about is making choices for me.
No, you can choose to keep using water, but you're going to pay for it. You can choose to still have your green lawn. No one is coming around and saying you cannot do that, but you are going to pay for it.
Look, we can have a middle ground on this. There's a lot of people that believe in these things that are totally separate from the role of climate change. And a lot of these recycling and energy efficiency policies are very good. And I think most people would agree with them, and most of people are trying to adhere to them. I think what we're talking about, again, is the imposition, whether you force people to have drought-resistant lawns or you force people to have solar panels on their roof. I don't see any reason why people can't make choices like that on their own.
When it comes down to it, like those choices we make, what we buy, whatever we vote on, it doesn't have to be expensive. But what we're trying to do is prevent these costs from getting bigger long term. I mean, I think we just simply need to change some of our choices and be a little altruistic.
Boss. Everything they said is just crazy because it just wraps up to a lot of shit because they're talking about choices of like your lifestyle and how to change this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about things that are like inexpensive, which we know they aren't. Like, yeah, eventually they will probably save you money down the fucking line, but we're talking like down the line. Like, those fucking Save Electric light bulbs, that shit ain't inexpensive. That's like trying to tell somebody, yeah, you can go vegan next week, but you're gonna be paying like $30 extra. Gonna be spending more time and more gas and shit looking for a certain type of restaurant that only sells vegan food and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's certain things like motherfuckers can't do, but that just rolls around to a whole bunch of shit. Like say your income don't allow you to do shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like of course everybody would probably want to be solar powered and fucking electric and gas free or whatever the case is, but that shit it costs money.
Yeah.
You can't just switch over with a snap of your fucking fingers.
Right.
Like, that's like switching your whole lifestyle. That's like damn near probably learning a new language. Because you telling me that, okay, I go for a drop-free lawn or drop-free flowers or whatever the case is, so I don't need water outside. But what about the inside? Like how do I still take my showers and stuff like that? Like, so am I only paying for what I'm using for it? That's pretty much what the fuck I'm doing now. Yeah. I'm only paying for what I'm using right now at this point. So it kind of doesn't make any sense. And like she was like the old girl that was over here, she was just saying like you need to probably lower your trips and shit in your car and shit like that. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think so.
Even if you do the same thing every single day and go to the same place every single day, you still have to spend money.
Yeah, I think she was more so saying like cause and effect, basically, like how you were saying. Like, of course, like everything seems expensive now, but in the long run, that's why they're saying like in the future, like hopefully if we do make those steps to better the world, that those things, those items will be less expensive. Because like I want a fucking Tesla.
Everybody wants a Tesla.
Yeah, but Teslas are fucking expensive, bro.
They got a $30,000 one.
Yeah, now. But you remember when like a year or two ago, or like when they first came out, like
50. But the fuck that.
Yeah, they were expensive, and then there were no like stations everywhere. But like now there's a whole bunch of stations. Yeah, throughout the United States, you could pretty much drive through the United States and find a charging station. Before you couldn't do that shit.
No.
You probably had like
at
one
home and probably at work, and that's it.
Yeah, you probably had like one per state or some shit back when Tesla like first started or whatever. But like now you could pretty much go and charge anywhere and through like any city or whatever.
That's fucked up too, because all the charges I took him.
Hey, just gonna have to wait.
So yeah. Starting again in 3, 2, 1.
I worry about our future.
Everybody should sit down on that one.
Yeah.
She doesn't worry about the future.
Yes, I definitely worry about our future. It's something I think about a lot. Because I watch and because I work with the data from climate science all over the country and all over the world. And I especially worry because I have 3 young sons, one of whom just has his birthday today. And I'm very worried that the planet they're going to inherit is already going to be much, much more difficult to live on than the one I inherited or one my parents gave to me.
The Constitution preamble, the last part of it says, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. I'm concerned about them, having liberty, having the freedom. Some people think that we don't have the right to choose, how we should live. I mean, because you want to enforce your way of life on others.
I have 4 grandsons that I love more than life. I fear for their future that they are going to be living in a socialist country, because this is what this leads to. I don't have a voice in this state at all. I have no voice.
I worry about the future because I have 4 nieces and nephew, and I'd like to have a family of my own someday and have kids. And so I think about the future and how degraded the environment could be, or how the amount of CO2 we're putting into the air and greenhouse gases increases. But I'm hopeful, because I found that there are people living in way worse conditions than I am, and they're full of hope because they understand that they have choices, that they can work hard to make a better life for themselves. I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, I'm gonna make choices that improve the environment, improve public health, and leave this place better for the future generations.
Hi
everyone.
Natalie, why is she?
I'm not in fear. I have made the choice to not have children, and I honor that decision, and we all have that choice. And I don't operate from a place of fear. A big question that I don't know if we've addressed today or if we ever will address is who takes responsibility for the impact that we're having, because we know that we have an impact. So I just believe in using our purchasing power, our political power through our vote, through supporting policies that are going to create healthier communities, and basically doing the best that we can so that we can continue to enjoy our environment now and for future generations.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Pause. I worry about our future, but the environment ain't my first worry. Like I said, it's top 5, but it's not top 3. Like that's not my worry. I mean, whatever happens in the environment happens. Especially if I'm dead and gone, what the fuck I'm gonna do? Be part of the earth. Or fucking, I'm an organ donor, so that's the only way I plan on living on.
Living in spirit, in somebody else's body.
Yeah, spirit animal or some shit, hell. Yeah, the environment isn't my first worry, or whatever the fuck the case is.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, like you said, it's like in that top 5, but like I still do, like, although there's other issues that I worry about for my like kids, I guess being on Earth should count too. Like there being a planet for them to actually live on and experience life.
Fucking space stations are already looking for other planets that can have the same amount or levels of oxygen and shit like that, so we can move the fuck around anyway.
Yeah, so we go from one planet, fucking up one planet, to fucking up another one.
That's how it works in all the fucking movies, ain't it?
True.
It's either that or live in space and avoid all the asteroids.
You know what's funny? Like,
shit. Either or, shit.
You know what's funny, since we talking about that? Like,
you saw Trump Space Force?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Just wondering.
Nah, you know how you watch YouTube and you go down a rabbit hole? Like, I ended up in a rabbit hole of like somebody's like, I guess their like thoughts and ideas of like what happened or whatever. And somebody's theory was that some of us originated from Mars, and that like Mars basically got fucked up.
It came over to Earth.
And people like basically came and settled here on Earth and shit.
Oh, okay.
So like Earth is like the second chance and shit.
So it's the
because
like it's an Attack on Titan concept.
Basically. And I kind of like, I was like, cause like some of the shit they were saying like kind of made sense, cause like, you know, at one point
just wiped everybody.
Yeah, at one point Mars had water and a whole bunch of other resources and shit at one point, and like now it's just like a dried out like desert type thing. So I don't know, like I just don't want it to be like, you know, that for, although like living on a space station would probably be fucking cool as shit, but you know, you still want, at the end of the day, you still want like the Earth to be like home and shit.
Just let me know when we take the trip to Uranus.
Hey. Hey, what you do in your own time in Boys Town is on you, bro. You can take a trip there all day.
You're gonna be fucking living like, what was that old ass Disney movie? Xenon, Space
Xenon
Girls?
Flux, or, no, that's Xenon.
No, it was
Xenon,
Disney.
Something, yeah.
Like boom, boom, boom.
I know exactly the fuck you talking about. I can't remember.
It was like Xenon, the Space Girls, or something like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna be living like that? Having like rock concerts, Lollapalooza and shit on spaceships?
Shit. The closest thing I seen to like probably how we gonna be living like is fucking if anybody ever watched The Expanse, that's how I see everything going down. But like in that show, like same shit that's happening now happened, and like people like they eventually
you ever seen The 100? That's kind of what happened too. It was
Yeah.
just teenagers.
So like they eventually span out and they started a colony on Mars and shit. But like the people that started a colony on Mars was like I guess you would say they're a military faction.
Mm-hmm.
So they got all this high tech like military grade
Shit.
stealth ships and shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you got like these people that are I forgot what the fuck they call them, but like they basically born on like this little, I forgot what the fuck they call these people, but it was born on like this shuttle, like this like space shuttle shit.
Oh, okay.
That is
Shuttle
it's like a
base.
space. Yeah, it's a base. It's a base, and it's kind of like I want to say it's kind of like they home because like some of those people were born on that
shuttle.
fucking shuttle. But what's cool about it was like I'm in one episode like they took one of the fucking dudes like hostage because like you know Earth and Mars had beef and shit, and you know you got the people that are in the middle and shit, and they brought one of the motherfuckers to Earth and shit, and his body was like they was tormenting his ass, and his body wasn't used to the gravity of Earth, so like they was just doing small shit, but like my man was sweating hard as fuck. Because like that gravity was pulling his fucking body down, bro, and he wasn't used to that because like he was born in
Take
space.
this paper cut.
I was like,
Why does it hurt so bad?
I was like, damn, bro. I was like, they tormented the shit out of him. They ain't shit. They brought his ass on
I can
Earth.
take that.
I was like, yeah, motherfuckers that was born on Earth, they, you know, walking around all normal and shit. But the motherfuckers that ain't born on Earth, like, or that's born on Mars and
they
shit,
can't
like,
take that
they
shit.
body types are different. I kind of fucked with that. Yeah, it's a good show, man. If you watch that.
That's on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I might watch. I got 30 days.
Yeah. I got 30 days.
Oh shit!